drive.
Well, hey everyone. Welcome back to another Drywater tutorial. We are today looking at this movie my brother-in-law did with his kids, the Space Shuttle movie, where in their little imaginations, they're in the car, they're playing around, and they use the car to blast off into space. And we just had to animate this little clip of a space shuttle taking off from a still photo, and it looks really simple, and it is really simple. I know you've seen it before. We used a little advice from Andrew Kramer, but we decided we could do this really quick without using a lot of my little laptop's processing power. This is about the only one we followed Andrew Kramer's advice on. The rest, we just found that through careful masking and putting your anchor points in the right spot, you could make some pretty convincing scaling. That looks just perfectly fine, and it's super fast. This whole scene we just downloaded from NASA's website. We're able then to cut out the elements and move them and stretch them and skew them as we needed. Convincing enough for what we need. So let's make this. Let's see what goes into this. Start a new project. New composition. We'll call it Shuttle Final. All right, then you just go grab that picture. We're gonna just manipulate it in its own composition for now. How do we want to start this? Well, let's take a look at what elements are going to need to move on their own. When you think about that, you think the sky is going to have to move on its own. The shuttle, obviously, but also the shuttle exhaust. Probably lots of different layers of smoke. Might just need to make a list or keep track of how many layers you're cutting away. But let's, I guess, start with the shuttle. And we're going to try to do this all in After Effects. On my first one, it was helpful to go into Photoshop. I'm not in Photoshop often, but it was handy. Let's see what we can do here, though. Well, let's start thinking about this in terms of matting. We do have what seems right now, anyway, to be a pretty defined line between the background clouds, which are very similar looking in texture, but not so much in luminance, I guess. So I'm wondering if we can utilize that seemingly clearly divided line to make a white and black matte in order to isolate the foreground from the sky behind it. So let's take a look at... Is it just a desaturate? Hue and saturation. Let's see what that does. Okay, let's see here. Now let's try a levels. And let's just start crushing. Go to crush the foreground from the background. You do kind of lose it. You do kind of start losing it there, but it's still pretty well defined. That might start doing it. Yeah, maybe. Ooh, see, we're losing some of it there. Yeah, the mask tool the masking would probably be able to follow that line now simply enough. Also, if you were noticing, I would be losing a lot of smoke exhaust right there if I'm not keeping careful of. All right, I think that's an okay starting point for this idea. Press F4, and that'll just easily switch between transfer control pane, in-out duration stretch pane. Yeah, that's a cool one. I always forget about that one. In-out duration and stretch. So F4 just switches back and forth between those. Well, let's pre-comp it. All right, so that's Control-Shift-C. And let's just make everything here, everything within the smoke that we want to save, we'll make white. Actually, let's just make a shape layer. And then we'll turn it white. I think if we bring this in on top and turn the opacity down, let's lock that layer. So now we can see more clearly the line between the clouds and the exhaust. And maybe we can just mask out, not matte, but mask out some of this that we do not want. So make sure you click on the right layer, shuttle. Let's just test it out. So now you can see this proves the concept anyway. All right, let's get rid of that mask and go in here for real. Let's really do this. I guess I'm not gonna be so concerned with the edges. in the composition window, press the middle mouse button, and it just automatically, temporarily turns into the hand tool. And saves my life. I'll tell you what. So yeah, maybe this could be our cloud layer. Right. And I think we're going to duplicate that. Here's a trick. If you make your mask, if you mask out what you want here, then you duplicate it, then you have the exact line that you need to mask out the other portion. I think only like 3 months ago or 2 months ago did I start realizing I should do that. Oh. So, that saved a lot of time. And I think that we're onto something. We've got our isolated smoke. We've got our isolated foreground. It's going to be so much easier just finding an already clean sky plate than having to make a clean sky plate. And I'm dreading it so much, just even thinking about it, that I'm already deciding we're just going to go to Google. I saw a launch one time. I'm from Wisconsin. My uncle and aunt live in Florida. I saw, I think, the Space Shuttle Discovery launch from their house. I saw a launch. We were like maybe 100 miles away or something like that. It was insane. Still, it was incredible to watch this thing launch. Oh, and that is going to be subtract. Yes. Yes, there we go. Space Shuttle. Call up the scale by pressing S. And let's just make that the same scale. And there we go. All independent. Okay, let's start animating this rocket ship. All right, in fact, we're going to have to make these two separate elements now so that when we move the shuttle, we can move the exhaust independently. I think the best way to do this is just going to be deleting. Okay, good. Boom. Now we've got two separate elements. Let's see what happens when we put the anchor point up at the top so that this scales very little, just so that not both sides of the layer, but only one side of the layer is stretching. You can manipulate that to do something that you like. So let's just try calling up the scale now. Deselect constrained proportions, and all we're going to be doing is stretching the vertical or Y axis. And so let's, I don't know, put it at 80. Let's go to 5 seconds. Yeah, let's just go to the end. Maybe let's go to 120. And kind of looks right. Let's parent the exhaust layer to the shuttle layer. And we're going to change the position on the shuttle. Let's put a keyframe on the position property. Bring that all the way out again to the end. We are going to bring the shuttle back down. Alright, so that when we play it in forward motion, it is blasting off. I'm going to hit F9 to easy ease that last keyframe. Alright, so that is one part of your motion done. One part of the photo animated. Little rocket ship taking off. We have to cut a bunch of individual smoke layers out. Nothing to it but to do it. Alright, so now we can animate this. Now let's duplicate it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, there's 10 layers. Again, I'm just soloing these layers. Coming from the back, moving forward. I'm looking at these and deciding what portions of the smoke seem, and it's just a photo, so I'm interpreting the photo, but what portions of the smoke seem like they're moving independently. Again, because we matted out what was behind, we can just be real fast about that. There's no information there that we have to try and mask out. Yeah, so just make sure you're on you have the right layer selected when you go to use the pen tool. Otherwise, you're just making a shape. Let's think about this and think then about where we're going to place our anchor points. Right now, every last anchor point is in the same exact spot, anchored at the same exact point right there. which is what the middle of our comp, the exact middle of our comp. Shift / Control Alt Home. There we go. Now every single anchor point is right in the middle of each layer, or probably in the middle of the mask. It looks like it's halfway between the edge of the comp and edge of the mask. Maybe the midpoint of all the points of the mask. The forward ones are probably going to be moving faster than the ones further behind because it's further away from the camera, so it's going to look like it's going slower. Therefore, we're going to scale it. Yeah, we're not going to scale it as much. So these two back ones, scaled slower than maybe perhaps this one, which might be moving the fastest. This one might be moving a little faster. All right, so this one looks like it's going to be expanding out this way from the left edge of the comp. So if that's the case, call up Y to move our pan behind tool, this guy, so that we can move the anchor point. Do the same thing that we did with the shuttle exhaust, but we have to be careful because if we put it here, again, we're going to be getting some transparency showing through because we cut it straight from a photograph. This was the edge of the information on that photograph. We would get some transparency right there showing through. So we're going to scale it from somewhere about here. So when we combine our scale transforms, it's kind of pushing up and pushing out towards the center of the comp. Let's try that. That'll work. All right, let's get this sky to do something we want. First of all, the colors. Oh, wrong. Let's do a little HLS. Color balance. Let's get this color to play nice. So we can do solid. GSM. Let's make it a black solid. Probably not going to matter much. Let's apply a gradient to that. Yeah, something like that. Linear ramp going from top to bottom. F4 to call up your track mats, your alpha and luma mats, and this is going to be a luma mat. Yeah. All right. Now another new solid. Let's make that white. And that's going to go underneath our sky layer. I think that's what we're looking for. Matching that, like when you're looking out into the sky, it's kind of pale blue, and then it gets darker blue as you look closer up towards the zenith. There's a word for you, kids. All right. Now for making the sky look like it's moving. CC slant. I like slant because there's just one parameter, and it's that. And that looks like it's moving. And that is perfect. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, we are cooking here now, guys. what we're trying to do is make a camera that kind of is, you imagine like a camera operator watching the shuttle, and then, you know, kind of panning up with it as it's taking off. So let's do that. Let's start a little lower. And let's follow that shuttle upwards. Something like that, yeah. Alright, so click on your little animator. I always forget if it's on wiggle, if it's frequency and amplitude, or amplitude and then frequency. So you're gonna go call up things that you can do to your property here. We're gonna wiggle it, and it's frequency, amplitude. So how many times a second and how far each time. Okay, so I am just, as time progresses through the comp, your null control position layer is being told to wiggle, which means as the current time indicator progresses through the comp, you're going to be wiggling the frequency and the amplitude are both going up together. So basically what you're doing is you're starting to feel more and more shake as this rocket takes off. And it's all automatic, you don't have to keyframe it. And not having to keyframe things is a beautiful thing. Okay guys, hopefully I was able to pass some form of knowledge on to y'all. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you subscribe, like, and come back to us. If not, hopefully, you did learn something. So this has been just a tutorial on how to make a photo come to life, start moving, animating a photo, just by cutting out a bunch of layers and animating the scale properties.